Welcome to the Self-Reliant Living Show, where we talk all about a self-reliant lifestyle to save money, live greener, eat healthier, and be prepared for anything so you can take care of the ones you love in good times and bad. I'm your host, Jennifer Osich, a homeschooling mom of 3 boys. I'm the author of the Preparedness Planner series, and my husband and I are the lead teachers of Self-Reliant School, a website dedicated to giving you the skills and confidence to take care of yourself and your community. Be sure to stop by and pick up your free videos from inside Self-Reliant School that will get you started growing, cooking, and preserving your own food today. You can pick these up at selfreliantschool.com/free. Now, on with the show. Hi, and welcome to the Self-Reliant Living Show. There are several ways to watch this show: Facebook, Periscope. You can watch the replay on YouTube. You can watch the replay on selfreliantlife.tv, and you can also listen to the show as a podcast through iTunes. We are on every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. So let me just get this out of the way. We are a live show, and sometimes because of technology, we may drop off for whatever reason. It has happened. It happened a couple weeks ago that the last part of the show dropped off. So if that happens, then you can always catch the replay, because we'll keep going and then we'll upload the replay to selfreliantlife.tv. So don't worry about that at all. Okay, so if you are on Facebook Live, I would really appreciate it if you would share this. It just gets the show into other people's feeds that might be interested in some of the things that we're talking about today. So I'd really appreciate that. Then if you are watching the replay, I would love a thumbs up on YouTube if that's where you are. Also, I love your comments, so please comment if you're on Facebook or if you are on the blog or YouTube. Love comments, so please leave me one. I love to read them, and I will respond to them. I will respond as soon as I can to all of them. Okay, so I am so grateful that you are here, and the benefits of doing all these different platforms is for your convenience. If you would like to go to the show notes for this particular show, because the show notes will have a synopsis of what this show was about, and then it will also have links. So if you are searching for those, you can go to selfreliantlife.tv/043. Okay, so let me introduce myself really quick. I am Jennifer Osich, and I am the author of the Preparedness Planner series, and I am the lead teacher at Self-Reliant School, where my husband and I teach gardening, cooking, and preserving skills, and I am also the host of this show, the Self-Reliant Living Show. So welcome to you. Okay, so we're going to just jump into it here. I'm going to make sure really quickly that I am seeing your comments. Okay, Diane says going into winter but still struggling with drought. Yeah, we've been hearing a lot about that over here, about drought in your neck of the woods. Okay, so we've got lots of people commenting. So yes, please keep commenting. Like I said, if I don't respond or call out your name, I will respond later on in the day. I go through all of the comments that are left on Facebook. I go through all the comments that are left on YouTube and on the blog. So please leave a comment and let me know what you think of the content that's being delivered, just where you're watching from, and that you're there. Just letting me know you're there. Like I said, this is my favorite time of the week where I get to talk to you, and it just it brings me a lot of joy to connect with you. Okay, so we're going to just jump into what we're talking about today, which is the benefits of eating less meat. Okay, so let me just back up though for just a second and talk a little bit about healthy eating, because it's so confusing, right? And there is a lot of talk everywhere about eating healthy. And so I think that most people would agree that, well, that's the other thing, most people don't agree, but there's just a few things that people agree on. And that is to eat non-processed food and to eat lots of vegetables, right? So everybody, I think everybody from every sort of different diet plan theory, whichever one that you follow or believe in, that's still something that you would agree on no matter what. If you're vegetarian or you're paleo or whatever, you would agree that lots of vegetables and not to eat processed food. Okay, and it is really confusing, and there's a lot of different information out there, and I feel like that the best thing you can do at this point is research and really take stock of how you feel. Try a few different things and see how you feel. And I'm a really big believer in keeping a journal because, you might not remember some of the minute details from month to month. And then if you're able to go back over those and you can see how you're feeling, eating one way, and then if you try another way, then you're eating a different way, and you can go back and review that. And the other thing to keep in mind, and I would hope that most people from different schools of thought would agree on, and that is that everybody is different. So the three things I think that we would agree on is that eat your vegetables, do not eat processed food, and we're all different. So what works for one person may not work for another for various reasons. There's a ton of different reasons that those things could be going on. And I'm not going to go into all of those, but I just want to sort of set the stage where, I wish that I had exact answers to, the healthy eating dilemma, but all I have are some suggestions. I think they're good suggestions, but they're not answers because nobody, not even the experts, have the answers, I think, yet. I think we're getting there, but we're not there yet. The studies are just not in yet. Okay, so having said all of that, there's a lot of talk about it, like I said. So, and I even did a show a couple weeks ago on sugar and all of the sugar that is in our food today and the hidden sugars and all that. So if you want to listen to that, you can go to selfreliantlife.tv/040 and listen to that, because there's a lot of information there. And I think that most people would also agree that there is a lot of processed sugar in foods that we shouldn't be eating. Okay, so and we have to worry about things like pesticides, preservatives, chemicals, processed foods. So what does that mean for meat? How is it that you can eat healthy meat, right? So the concern about meat is the way that the meat is raised, right? So there's two ways that meat, beef, and chicken, all meat, I guess, it would be raised. We're going to talk about beef specifically in a minute, so that's why it came to mind. But there's two ways that you can raise animals, and that is you can grass feed them, also known as pasture fed, or you can grain feed them. Some people do a combination of both. Okay, so, but let's just talk commercial at this point, because we're assuming if you are one of those people that have your own animals and you can raise your own and they're grass fed and pasture fed, and if you supplement with grain that's organic and you know what you're doing, then good for you and keep going, and that's wonderful. But for the rest of us that don't have that option, that's who I'm speaking to now, right? So we're talking about commercially raised or farmed, ranched animals. So grass fed or pasture fed is one option. Those are synonymous. And then grain fed is the other way that you can raise animals. So when you grass feed or pasture feed animals, then you're sort of leaving them in their natural state. You just, cows eat grass, so you just let them eat grass. You let them eat in the pasture. And this is the way that cows and other livestock has been raised for thousands and thousands of years. And so it's not a new concept. It's just that what happened is it's not as efficient as taking animals and putting them into a sort of grain-fed situation where they don't have to roam for their food, right? It's all right there. So they're in this situation where they can just eat and eat something that they're not naturally meant to eat, and they can eat and eat all day eat with the food that they're not naturally meant to eat, right? So it is an artificial environment that we have, we have manufactured over a certain amount of time, and there's a lot of reasons for it. One of the main reasons is that corn is cheap, and so that's one of the main things that animals are fed, and that's it's cheap and it fattens up animals to take them to the slaughterhouse, and so that's the way that it's been done for efficiency and for cost, because people want to make a lot of money off of the business that they're running, and so they're going to do it the fastest, cheapest, most efficient way, regardless of being humane or any of that stuff. So grain-fed usually means a feedlot where animals are kept confined and they're not allowed to just be animals. Whereas grass-fed or pasture-fed means that they're able to move around, they're able to eat what they're naturally meant to eat. And so those are the different types of ways that you can raise livestock. And like I said, some people do a little bit of both, but I'm not really speaking to them or about them because, like I said, they're mostly really small operations, and a lot of the times they're just doing it for their own family, and most of the time they know what they're doing in terms of when to supplement. So I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the commercial, like I said, feedlots where the animals are not treated well. Okay, so the thing is that grass-fed or pasture-fed, you've probably heard that. Those are buzzwords going around today, and you've probably seen that in articles. Maybe you've even seen it in the grocery store. And if you've noticed, the price is really, really high because of the extra land, extra effort it takes to provide that kind of meat. Okay, so let's talk about some of we're going to come back, we're going to circle around back to grass-fed beef in just a minute. But first of all, I want to take a minute to define some terms and to talk about why eating less meat might be beneficial. Okay, and I'm also going to monitor comments as we go and make sure that I can see everyone. Yeah, so, and if you have questions and comments, please put them in the comment section if you're on the blog, if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Facebook. Okay, so before we get started, for the benefits of eating less meat, let me just define some terms, because if you're watching this, chances are that you are interested in questioning whether meat is even good for you or not. Okay, so, and you've probably heard some of these terms, so let me just define them pretty quickly for you here so that when they get thrown around, you know what is being talked about. Okay, so the first one is being a vegetarian. So when you're a vegetarian, you don't eat animal flesh, but you eat eggs and milk and dairy products, right? But it's just the actual flesh of the animal that you don't eat. Okay, so being a vegan is you don't eat any animal products. You don't eat anything that comes from an animal. Everything that you eat comes from a plant. And even honey is questionable. Some vegans don't even eat honey. Okay, and then there's an omnivore. They eat both meat and plants. There's also a pescatarian, and that's somebody who eats eggs and dairy and fish, but not animal flesh. Okay, and then there's a couple of terms that you might hear, like raw vegan and a couple of different ones like that are sort of in between. So a raw food vegan is somebody who is vegan, but all of their food is raw, which means that it hasn't been heated above 118 degrees. It doesn't mean that it's all cold or anything like that. But in any case, there's a few, like I said, in-betweens and offshoots of those. But those are the main ones. Okay, so let's circle around back to beef and grass-fed beef, because like I said, that is buzzwords that you're probably hearing. So the reason that grass-fed beef is superior to commercially raised beef is that, well, first of all, just the humanity of it, right? It's not humane at all to raise an animal in a box where they are not able to move ever. And then the thing is that even if you got past that, right, there's all kinds of problems that come up with that they are sick animals, they're scared animals, and they don't live a good life. And so physiologically in the body, that is going to cause problems. And most of those animals are put on antibiotics and all kinds of other hormones and things that you don't want in your meat. So it's just not a good setup. Even though it might be efficient in order to get more meat, it's not really good for you to consume at all. There's so many things that have been studied about that kind of meat, and the fats in that kind of meat are the kind that cause heart disease and other diseases. Okay, so the best kind of meat to eat is grass-fed or pastured beef. And the reason I'm saying beef is because that's what has been studied. So let me just talk to you about that for a second. Okay, so grass-fed beef has the good fatty acids, it has the omega-3, and it has less of the bad, which is omega-6. And then it also has something called CLA, and that is something that helps with brain function and weight control, and there's a ton more things that it helps with as well. So it has more nutrients in it. Okay, like I said, pastured beef is also more humanely raised, and they're not kept in the feedlots, and so that's a big plus. When you're just thinking about the treatment of animals, it's also better on the environment to have pastured beef, because you don't have corn trucked in from wherever it was grown. There's less of an impact on the environment if you are raising pastured beef. Okay, so and the reason I'm sort of honing in on beef is because most of the studies that have been done is about beef, but it goes to reason that it's like that for chickens and pigs or pork as well, to treat them the way they were meant to be treated, right? The way they were meant to be raised in their sort of natural environment. Okay, and all of those meats are going to be more nutritious. Okay, so I'm going back here to look at comments, and I'm seeing lots of people have joined us, and I'm getting a few hearts on Periscope. Thank you very much for the hearts. Okay, so let's go back and talk about beef, because like I said, this is not an anti-beef rant. I'm not anti-beef. I'm just looking at the reasons why we might want to eat a little bit less. So now that we have our background in terms of some different eating philosophies, and then also the difference between pastured and grain-fed beef and animals, because like I said, it goes past just beef. All right, I want to give you also a little bit of a background about me and my eating journey. And that is that my family and I were vegetarian, and I was vegan for many years. And the thing is that, I went without meat, and I really didn't feel a difference. I didn't miss it like I thought I would. There was a big psychological, I think, workup to going off of it, not eating it anymore. But then after I did it, I was like, oh, this isn't such a big deal. And then we continued for several years until it got to a point where I wasn't feeling well. So I added some animal protein back in, and now I feel more balanced. And I want to say that even though we lived according to this philosophy, we weren't really anti meat eater, because as long as like I was talking about, if it's done in a humane way, then I've never felt that it was a crime or bad to do that. But the thing is, we did it for health reasons. And so I just want to throw that in there because I want to give you a sense of my background, that I have gone without meat for a very, very long time and really didn't notice, a difference in terms of missing it. Now, like I said, as the years went on, I wasn't feeling well, and it had to do not with the lack of meat so much, but just not following a healthy vegetarian diet, and then also needing some to add back some animal protein. Okay. So the thing is, though, what I learned from that is that the animal protein that I have added back in is pastured and organic because of the like I said, the studies that have been done on meat that is grain fed. So now let's get to some of the benefits of not eating as much meat. Because if you think about it, we eat a lot of meat. Most people have meat at least once a day. And then a lot of people have it twice a day for, say, lunch and dinner. So that's a lot of meat. 200 years ago, people did not eat that much meat. I mean, they didn't, that would have been, maybe somebody did if they were king or queen of some country, but the normal person didn't eat that much meat. Okay, so today, if you cut back on your meat consumption, you'll save money. You will save a lot of money, especially if you are health conscious and you are looking for that grass-fed beef. You're going to save a ton of money because that is more expensive because of the way it was raised. And so if you are looking to save money with your grocery budget, if you cut out meat a couple of times a week, it doesn't even have to be, all every day. It can be just a couple of times a week that you cut it out. You can save a ton of money. So that's one reason to eat less. Okay, here's another reason, and I don't think a lot of people really talk about this a lot or realize it a lot. But if you're trying to build a food storage, if you eat less meat and you are used to eating things that don't involve meat, then you can store a lot more food, and it can be healthier food, and it can last longer. Because if you store meat, you're going to have some sort of preservative in it. You can make beef jerky, but you still have to consume it fairly quickly. And by fairly quickly, I mean within a year or so. It's not going to go into long-term storage. If meat does go into long-term storage, it's going to have sulfites, and that has been known to cause a lot of different problems as well, health problems. And so if you're storing meat for whatever reason, right, to build up your food storage, then you're going to want to eat your food storage because you want to keep a rotation going. That's a big thing that a lot of people don't realize either, that you have to eat what you store, and you're going to have to eat it eventually. Otherwise, it's just a waste of money, right? It's just going to be, well, just in case. But we don't know if just in case will come or when it will come. And so you always want to keep a rotation because you want if a situation does arise, you want that to be a healthy food source for you, right? So if you're just putting it away and just leaving it there, and then you come back 20 years later and you expect that to be good, I don't know about that. Okay, so you always want to rotate your food storage, and you want to have it as healthy as possible. If you are used to not having as much meat as, say, meat every day, then your food storage is going to be something that you can easily transition into eating. You can rotate it very easily, and it can be a healthier, I should say, storage. Because, like I said, if you put meat in there, you're going to have some sort of preservative, even if it's dehydrated or freeze-dried or whatever. Okay, so that is 2 huge reasons to eat a little bit less meat. Okay, and the other thing is that if you're not eating the grass-fed meat, then you probably are obviously eating the commercial raised meat in the feedlots, the grain fed, and that is not helping your health. So what my family and I have done is we eat less meat, and then when we do eat meat, we only eat the grass-fed meat. So the thing is that that's cost more, so we have to have other days of the week that we don't have any meat, and that adds more variety to our diet. Okay, so what does it mean? What does that look like to eat less meat? Let me take a break here and make sure on the comments here. Hi, Vicki Lynn. Okay, so hi, Shelly. So I see a lot of people are joining, and I'm still getting more hearts on Periscope. So thank you for those. I really appreciate those. Okay, so what does that look like to eat less meat? All right. It doesn't mean to stop eating it altogether, and it doesn't mean to be anti-meat or anything like that. Okay. It just means that you're eating it a little bit less each week, and the thing is that you are supporting people who raise animals humanely and let them live the way that they were intended to live, that God intended them to live. Okay, so suggestions for eating more plants. Okay, here's one that you probably have already heard of, and that's just to replace one meal a week with something that's meatless. So you've heard of Meatless Monday, right? So you could just do it and once a week, and it can be a really, really simple meal like mac and cheese. That doesn't have any meat in it. It has some cheese, but that's not meat. So, and dairy products are generally cheaper than meat, but you still want to make sure that they're pasture raised or grass fed. Okay, and then you can gradually work up to 3 meals a week would be good. You could even go to 4 and then just have meat on the other days. And if you want a good recipe for mac and cheese, you can go to selfreliantlife.tv/025. There's a recipe for Instant Pot mac and cheese. Okay, another thing that you could do is to try lentils. Now, I know there's a lot of people who don't like beans. And then I would suggest you try them again in some different recipes because they're really good. And the thing is that probably when you had them and maybe learn not to like them, that they weren't cooked as good as they could be. So that would be my first suggestion. But there's a lot of people who don't like beans. So if you don't like beans, my suggestion would be to try lentils. Lentils are a little bit milder and they're so versatile. You can put them in a loaf. So it's kind of a mock meatloaf, and it tastes just wonderful. You can make burgers out of lentils, or you can make something simple like lentil soup. So try some lentils, and they are super, super cheap. They are so reasonable. You can just make all of this for pennies a serving. So your pocketbook is going to love you. Okay, another thing that you could do is try adding some healthy fats to a meal. So there would be something like adding some nuts, avocados, because fat is going to fill you up. And I know that has been a complaint with some people who try to go and eat more vegetarian meals, is that, oh, well, I just can't get filled up on salad. But forget salad. There's so many other options out there. I mean, don't forget your vegetables, but you don't have to eat salad every single time that you do not eat meat. So just keep that in mind. Okay, and then eat more dairy and eggs because those things are not as expensive and you can still get them pasture raised or grass fed. So consider eating more dairy, like I was talking about the mac and cheese, and then you can also ferment dairy. So that adds another layer of nutrition. So explore dairy and eggs. And so let me just say really quickly here a word about soy, because most people who think vegetarian or meatless, they automatically go to tofu or soy or something like that. Okay, so soy is a good source of protein, and it is something that if you can tolerate it, there's a lot of people that can't tolerate it. If you can tolerate it, it's just fine. as long as it's organic, because most of the soy in the US is GMO. So you want to avoid GMOs, but if you can tolerate digesting soy, then that is something that you can add to your diet a few times a month. I wouldn't do it for every meal, but I would definitely have it be something that you could supplement with. Okay, so I want to tell you about a place where you can get way more information on the types of food that you should be eating. I want to give you a resource that I have been enjoying all week, and that is the Food Revolution Summit. Now, I know I tell you about all kinds of things that are happening, but this one is the big one. It's a really big one. And this one I would recommend. I would recommend the events that I host myself above anything, because we have standards. But this one is the one that I don't host that I really recommend. So if you haven't checked out any of the other ones, definitely check out this one. You will completely and totally enjoy it. And what they're talking about this year, because this is like their 5th or 6th year, this thing has been going for a while. They're talking about living plant-based. What does that look like? What does that mean? And is that something for you? Then also they're talking about the psychology of food, because in our society, we have a certain psychology. We have comfort foods. We have, food rewards. We have all kinds of psychology that gets into our mind, right, about our diet and affects the way we eat. So they're talking about that. Also talking about the effects of sugar. So if you're interested in giving up sugar or cutting back, then you can learn more about it here. They're also talking about how to live a longer life with the right diet, right? So we've been talking about a couple of different kinds of diet here, a couple of different kinds of philosophy. Well, what is the science behind all of these different philosophies? And, which one is coming to the surface, especially for you and your lifestyle? Okay, and then they're also talking about ways to prevent cancer. There's a lot of talk about diet and cancer prevention. So they are delving into that. Okay, and then they also go into how you can join in on this sort of food revolution, what you can do to help the cause. Okay, so, and I want to tell you about 2 of the speakers. One is Joel Fuhrman. I have his book right here. And he's written several books, but this is one that he's written, Eat to Live. And so he is a guest speaker this year, and his talk, I think it was on Monday. His is already over. So if you want to, it's still going on for free. So I'm going to give you a link in just a second after I tell you about this other one. And there's another speaker that I really, really love. I just discovered her, and her name is Susan Pierce Thompson, and she's the one that talks about the psychology of food. And so I have her book as well. So lots of information in this summit, and it is free. It's still going on, and you can get in for free. But I have 2 links for you because it started on Sunday. I sent out an email. If you're on my email list, you're always going to get the information before these things start, so you can get in and get the whole thing for free. So if you want to just go sign up and check it out, the link is selfreliantschool.com/foodrevfree. If you can go there, and then you can sign up for free. And like I said, check it out. See if it's something that you think you would benefit from. If you already know and maybe forgot, whatever, you can go to selfreliantschool.com/foodrev, and that takes you to the page where you can actually purchase the talks, especially if you've missed a couple that you think that you would enjoy. And this week it's discounted because when it's over, it'll go up. So I just want to let you know about this really, really great resource, and it gives you much more information on the things that we've been talking about today. And so I really encourage you to take advantage of it, especially because it's free. Okay, so remember, being self-reliant is not about yourself or being selfish. It's about taking care of the ones that you love, or take care of yourself so that you can take care of the ones that you love. Take care until we talk again. I'm so glad you could join me today. Here's what to do next. head over to selfreliantlife.tv to pick up the show notes for this episode and to watch replays of older episodes. To go directly to the show notes for this episode, go to selfreliantlife.tv and then without a space, type a / and then the number of today's episode. You can watch this show live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, live on Facebook or the Periscope app. Don't forget to stop by selfreliantschool.com/free to get your free Self-Reliant School videos that will help you get started living a self-reliant life. Also, if you're listening to this show as a podcast and you've liked what you've heard today, please subscribe through Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast app. If you're on a mobile device, just search for the Self-Reliant Living Show. If you're on a laptop or desktop, just go to selfreliantlife.tv/iTunes. And while you're there, please leave a review. I love to hear from you. You leaving feedback makes it easier for others that are interested in living a self-reliant life to find my podcast. Take care until we talk again.